Welcome back to the Fighters Corner podcast for another podcast episode. In this epi, we talked about MMA and started things off with what's going on with BJ Penn and his latest street loss. We also touch up on Anthony Johnson making his announcement that he's returning to the shallow heavyweight division in the UFC, as well as previewing a little bit with what's next on the big UFC card that's coming up that's headlined by Poirier and Nurmagonedov. All this and much more. Please hit like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy the podcast. So who are you taking in this weekend's fights? I know who I got, and it's not who you think, so I'm going to take my picks over to the world's safest and most trusted online gambling site and make a few bets. That's right, it's BetDSI.com. With more than 20 years' experience in the online gaming industry, BetDSI has the best sign-up and deposit promotions on the web. They also boast more deposit options than any other betting site, including fast, free, and secure payouts. Also, for our listeners, they are offering a special promotion where you can build a bigger bankroll and get 100% sports cash bonus when using our promo code Fighters Corner, all one word. That's 50% more sports cash by using our promo code Fighters Corner. Check out BetDSI for all your online gaming needs.
This episode is sponsored by B2 Digital. B2 Digital is doing some really cool things in the mixed martial art world. They're kind of creating a farm league for the bigger shows, and they are listed on a publicly traded company, listed on a stock exchange, BTDG on the stock exchange. They support our show. Guys, please, if you guys like this show, please give them a look, and if you can throw some support their way, man, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Also, please don't forget to subscribe, hit like, share, all because you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Radio Player, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, and the guy sitting next to you on the train is probably listening to us too. And if you can, show us your support by finding us on Patreon, where you can let us know how much you love us. And if you're a fan of boxing, jiu-jitsu, kumite, and even capoeira, go check out my guys at UCL MMA. These guys are the heavyweight champions of mixed martial arts shows. And if you think you're the next Johnny Lawrence, go to their website at uclmma.com, shoot them an email and tell them John sent you before asking their matchmaker that you want to defend your All-Valley Karate Championship versus one of their fighters. That's uclmma.com.
Look, we're here in the Fighters Corner, like that in the intro stuff. You want me to
John,
lead?
is that awesome? Is that the intro?
That's better than you've ever done, Mike.
You know, my name is Mike Davis, and Miguel Iterate, all the way from Costa Rica, just gave us an amazing introduction. Miguel, you should get into ring announcing.
I learned from the Jeff Osborne School of Announcing, so.
An old hook and shoot reference. So it turns out we're starting out with MMA. So, mixed martial arts, Miguel, what's in the news? Thank you for that bellowing lead-in. Phenomenal.
Well, the inmates have taken over the Fighters Corner podcast if you're asking me to do the leading. So, I'm okay with that. But if we're going to talk MMA, why don't we talk a little bit about what's hot in the news today? The old... brain trauma, BJ Penn, getting knocked out on the street, by an overweight guy, and just further embarrassment and black eye on his legacy, and we can start with that one.
Since it's so new, you want to break it down and sort of go over what happened?
BJ's at a bar with his friends.
Okay.
Gets into a fight with a guy. They take it outside. This is his second, we'll call it a fisticuff in as many months. And they go back and forth. They separate. BJ's talking smack to the guy. The guy cracks him. BJ goes, you know what? Hit me again. Well, the guy hit him again and knocked him out. Ugh. And it's pretty sad, man.
He hasn't won a fight in 9 years.
No, he won one last month at that same bar.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so he's 1-1 at the bar.
Yeah, it's inherently not true. Yeah, he's set himself back. He's probably got to get about 3 or 4 more bar fights, and he'll be ready for a title. That's my opinion, though. You're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. Like Miguel, when you and I always kind of compile greatest of all time lists outside of the heavyweight division, are people that are nominated from the heavyweight division. We always talk about people that have won titles in multiple weight classes because it's incredibly difficult to do. And you can count them on probably one hand right now, right? Mm-hmm. So, including Nunez. And, BJ obviously is he's in that realm. And the guy was the poster boy for the UFC for many, many years, especially when they weren't making any money. And the guy took pay cuts.
Yeah.
He was never one of those guys that ever screamed about pay. He always fought for whatever it is the UFC gave him. And
I don't think he gets enough credit for that.
No, he doesn't. And, his fight against Jens Pulver, although in a loss, was something that I remember watching from the country of Mexico at the time, and I got teary-eyed.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I think I was actually here in the States. My fault.
Yeah, he had a lot of classic fights, man. And
Matt Hughes.
It's sad the route that it's taken, as a fan. You just want to say, just stop, man. Just stop. Give him a hug and say, go home.
It's
okay.
Miguel, does this kind of remind you of the last two fights Muhammad Ali had?
Not the last two bar fights, right? The last two.
No. Muhammad Ali never partook in that stuff. Miguel, would you not agree that this is kind of reminiscent of a shell of a person that at one time?
I mean it has some Ali I think is a little almost more sordid in that. Well, it depends. What's more sordid and what's actually worse? The fact that they had actual medical exams that gave ample warning about Ali and that he shouldn't have been fighting, but was, the mechanisms were there to approve him anyway. Or the fact that there is no one really calling for that there's no mechanism in place to force BJ to retire in any way, shape, or form in this sport. The guy can keep if he doesn't get licensed in California, he can always apply, in another state to fight. And we know how that goes and stuff. So, for the warning signs of a deteriorating fighter, the correlations are all there, and they both their stories that come with an immense dark side if we choose to go there.
Yeah, and if I were to give any advice to somebody that's a BJ Penn fan, I would suggest you get your autograph and you get your picture now, because the path that he's going down, it doesn't end pretty. It's usually pretty violent. It makes the news, and it usually is followed up by a news story where there's about a dozen people going, well, I tried to do this, I tried to do that, and it just, he wouldn't listen, or they wouldn't listen, or that person. It's a lot of finger pointing. I mean, we've seen it time and time again in combat sports, and right now, you got to hit the emergency brake. And you got to sit down with everybody in the same room that BJ respects, like his family members, and you got to have an intervention. And it's not about drugs or alcohol; it's about his mental well-being.
Yeah. So at this bar, was he drinking? I'm assuming. I mean, was he drunk? Was he?
I think there was just a video. I don't think the police got involved. I mean, I'll tell you this: one of the locals there, probably a Howley, I think is what they refer to them as, now has a legendary story that will be told for generations.
It is pretty sad, man. And I feel bad watching this. You know what I mean? I want it to stop. I want it to go away. And we've had a lot of people that in combat sports history that just stopped right at the right time. Hate to say it, George St. Pierre is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Sylvia is passing the line a little bit. I wish he would stop. I'm sorry, not Tim Sylvia. Yeah. Anderson Silva should be calling it a day too. But people get addicted to that high of competition.
Yeah,
and that's all they know.
Whatever heroin or crack does to you, whatever adrenaline dump
endorphins.
or endorphin dump it gives,
Mm-hmm.
You have to assume it probably pales in comparison to fighting in front of 30,000, 40,000 people and getting your hand raised.
Yeah.
That rush and that high must be incredible.
It has to be. So.
Yeah, that's pretty sad, Miguel. I mean, what do you think that the outcome should be in regards to Mr. Penn?
Well, I wish there was a mechanism of somebody. Dana White could have been that person, but Dana White's here's the problem: is BJ. One of the things that you're giving them props for is taking fights and not negotiating too. That comes with a little bit that he comes from a wealthy family and the necessity wasn't quite there, and that gives you a little bit of a different take. The reason I bring that up is because I do think that he's had privilege throughout his whole career. And then, the prodigy and icon, he's been looked up to his whole career. I don't know that his family members are the right people for an intervention, because they may always have been kowtowing to him. And, he may not listen to them. It may not go that way, because I think, at 40 years old at this point, he's, just from what we've seen of him performing in the octagon, the time for that conversation and that intervention, if things were normal, is long overdue. His brother or somebody who was involved with him in his career should have already said to him, sometime, back in, 2014, 2015, right around, maybe in that neighborhood, when he lost to Frankie Edgar the third time, you know what I mean? Right around there would have been a good time for that intervention to come from his family. But I don't think that they're capable of doing that, because BJ kind of does what he wants. Mm-hmm. And he's been at odds with some other family members, like his wife and stuff like that. Like, there's been tension and stuff. So I don't think, part of it too is at some point you got to break through. And I don't know if BJ's, and now you include head trauma and stuff like that, if BJ's sort of wired to change his mind and listen and give up and collapse and say, you guys are right. So I just think this is a bad situation. Yeah. Dana White should have been the one saying to him, don't call me anymore. You can't fight anymore. That should have been right around that Frankie Edgar third loss. Mm-hmm. There was no need for Yair Rodriguez, Dennis Siver, these fights. But, even recently, after the Clay Guida loss, Dana White didn't come out and definitively say, I'm not giving him another fight. And he was calling and asking for another one. So this is a bad situation, because, this is, to say it's long overdue, an intervention or someone to call stop to BJ's career, is an understatement. It's beyond overdue.
Yeah.
Not to me, this is just talking what we've seen in the ring. When you break into it, all the outside of the octagon problems and the real negative sides, such as fighting in bars and stuff like that, then it just gets worse.
Well, you know what? I imagine, like, the next day, let's try to, put ourselves in the room where someone tells BJ, hey, listen, dude, you just got starched by a drunk dude at a bar where you were probably the aggressor the entire time. I imagine BJ's response is, I want to fight the guy again. I want to fight him on the island, And
how many times has a guy like BJ Penn, has he heard the word no?
Well, think about Hawaii and think of how difficult it is to live there and have money. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like the difference in terms of, like, socioeconomic wealth there, it doesn't represent the rest of the country. There's like an upper class there, and then everybody else. Mm-hmm. And BJ his family's part of that upper class. So how many times has he said no, or ever heard the word no? I don't know the guy personally. I met him one time in Abu Dhabi in 2005 in California.
Did you tell him no?
I thought he was a little bit arrogant when I met him, but, I'm just a jerk off, So I worked for Abu Dhabi. I'm just a friggin' tool to him, Yeah. So at the end of the day, like, he was BJ Penn and I was just a jerk off, which, is true even till today. I mean, that's not, that's not, pretend that playing field has changed.
Well, if BJ Penn is listening to this, no.
You agree with him?
No.
And I agree with you.
Stop it. Stay away from the bars.
Yeah, no, he needs to hear it. You've got to assume that, I mean, he was the king of Hawaii at one point. He was probably surrounded himself with yes men, which is the absolute worst thing you can do. BJPenn.com.
Bingo.
No, it's enablers. It's you got to look at BJ Penn's relationships like you do addiction. Mm-hmm. Does he have enablers, or are people telling him the truth? Yeah. And he's surrounded by enablers.
Enablers, right? Exactly. No, I agree 100%. That's how this all happened.
Yeah. It shouldn't even have gotten to this point.
People who tell him the truth would have kept him out of the ring 4 or 5 years ago.
I'm not.
Or cage.
I'm from the south side of Chicago, so I'm going to point a couple fingers here, but there's 25 being pointed back at me as I say this, as I deliver this message. So I'm well aware of that. Did you take a look at the video? Did you get even a glimpse of it?
I've seen a couple screenshots.
Okay, a couple screenshots. Miguel, did you get a glimpse of it?
I saw him go down from a shot. It was probably about a 10-second clip, but I did see that clip. Yeah.
All right. Did you see the person delivering the shot? The back.
Yeah,
heavy set, tattoos. Like
Samoan.
No, it was a white dude.
It was a guy that could best be described as a bar patron.
Okay, bar patron.
Bar patron.
Okay. Do you know, like in the middle of winter, you see a guy like driving a bike down the street, and you just kind of say to the person next to you, "I wonder how many DUIs he's got." You know, it's one of those situations.
All of them.
Yeah. This guy fits into that category. Like the bar that BJ was at. And I'm white trash, okay? He shouldn't have been in that. I wouldn't be in the same bar as that friggin' clown. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a powder keg of caca, and BJ was the wick.
Yeah.
That's it for that topic. Are we done with this? Can we move on?
No, for sure.
We beat that one to death. Miguel, next topic.
Well, moving on from that debacle, we've got maybe good news. Anthony Johnson, Rumble Johnson, has declared his retirement over, and he's returning to the UFC in the heavyweight division, and that'll keep him away from John Jones a little bit.
He's riding a two-fight win streak.
Go there, but I think Anthony Johnson is one of those guys. If you had to name one guy out there that could potentially be a threat, in some of these divisions that's not active, Johnson was one of those guys. I mean, he's just a brutal, lethal power in his hands, and his story is kind of compelling when you consider, he used to cut his way all the way down to 170 pounds, and now he's coming back as a full-blown heavyweight.
He was on The Ultimate Fighter at 170. Mm-hmm. He won it. Can you imagine, I think I'd like to see the bonus footage of that season, because him staying, the trick of being in that house is you got to stay on weight because you never know when you're going to fight.
Right.
How he made 170 is beyond me.
I'm sure there's some special bonus footage that is real juicy.
Yeah,
but when I see
probably a lot of hacking and throwing up
drinking
sounds,
a lot of mustard water,
from the bathroom. Yeah,
when I seen the headline, Anthony Johnson making a return to the UFC, I immediately thought two things. One of them, he doesn't have to cut weight. So making weight shouldn't be an issue.
That's not true.
Although
he's got to make 266.
266 and a half or whatever.
No, it's 266.
Is one over? Okay,
it's one over. Yeah, and
what is he at now? 3.
He looks like he's 270.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, I mean, he could probably drop that in the morning. Something else that I see, and we've talked about this on the last podcast. Who is in that division?
Yeah, well,
right now is a good time to be a heavyweight in the UFC because the pool is so shallow.
I think Ngannou is he's about to become Jesus Christ of that division.
Yeah.
And he is going to cast all the other heavyweights out.
So play Dana White for a second. Who are you going to give Ngannou after Stipe? Another rematch? You know what I mean? So I think what you do is you set up Anthony Rumble Johnson. You give him someone that's top 5.
Helps you coast for a couple months while you build the rest of your division.
You figure it out, and that's it. And then how does this affect his BKFC status? I'm sure Feldman's loving this.
Well, here we go. He quit the UFC. Well, he retired from the UFC because he was going to be in charge. I respect him for not announcing why he was leaving. He was just like, man, he's not a fighter. He's just an athlete. And there's a venture that is coming to fruition, and the opportunity is bigger than he had ever hoped for, and that he needs to kind of pursue that avenue. Well, that avenue was a supplement company. I don't know the name of it, but I also know it didn't come to market. Mm-hmm. So, in the meantime, I don't think he picked up training in terms of teaching anywhere. But what he did do was he got in line with Feldman at BKFC, which he's done a great job for. I don't know what his job entailed, but he was at their event shaking hands and super friendly.
I think his job basically entailed standing around looking huge.
Yeah. Well, I also think he was supposed to be in charge of fighter relations, and that issue that Feldman had with when talking about, hey, that guy's not getting paid. I think Anthony Joshua kind of like
Anthony Johnson.
Or Anthony Johnson, I apologize. Anthony Joshua.
Wait till the next podcast.
Yeah, right.
Stay in your
Anthony Johnson. We'll call him AJ. Both go by that nickname,
there
right?
we go.
I think Anthony Johnson actually kind of, let heads cool and kind of spoke about what was going on and kind of smoothed things over. From a fighter's perspective. You got to respect the guy. I mean, I know he's had, like BJ Penn, a ton of issues that have happened, outside of the ring or cage. But at the end of the day, he's a giant specimen of a human being. He's going to make an impact.
He's athletic. So, let's see.
Here, or the NFL protocol. Miguel, if you're the UFC, do you let him fight based on his issues with domestic violence? I mean, do you make him sit a year? Or do you let him go through? What do you do?
Well, they already let him fight with that. So yeah, I mean that's not going to be an issue with him. He's just got to keep it together. That's all.
I think that's the next step of the UFC that I kind of see coming into play, where you do something like that, you're going to sit a year or an 8-month or 6-month suspension, and so do I. And you know what, man? Like if you got an issue at home that's so batshit out of control, you just got to leave, man.
Yeah. So, I'm looking at the rankings for the UFC. Daniel Cormier is still number 1 listed. Ngannou number 2. Junior Dos Santos number 3. Curtis Blades number 4. Derek Lewis number 5.
See, Curtis Blades is still, he's only 25 years old.
Oh, he's got a bright future. But where does AJ fall into this? You think he's a top 5? Just based off this list, you think he beats Curtis Blades?
I think he's got a shot. I think he's got a better shot than a John Jones.
Junior Dos Santos, what about him?
I think he beats Junior. Yeah.
And what about Ngannou?
Dude,
it depends on how it looks. Huh?
I think Ngannou can punch a hole through steel. I don't know. I think Ngannou. I think you can throw him against anybody in the world, and there's going to be an issue.
Yeah, so I mean, at
any sport, even boxing, he lands that one punch in boxing, you got problems.
So it's safe to say, just by AJ declaring that he's going back to the UFC,
he's arguably top 5 for sure.
Okay, so
for sure.
Now, is that a
and I'm going to tell you who's the first out of that list? Mm-hmm. Who's the first guy you see dropping completely out of it?
Junior Dos Santos.
Yeah, Miguel, you agree with that?
It could be. He's stubborn, and Cormier could retire, keep in mind. So you might see Cormier just come off by default.
I think Junior Dos Santos is going to be I think he's got a ton of miles on him. And I think eventually he's I think he's going to start appearing old. Mm-hmm. Especially after his last performance. I think he leg kicked Ngannou one time, and that was it.
Yeah.
Ngannou is a 255-pound dude with a 6-pack, on USADA testing, like legit USADA, not Brazil USADA, USADA United States testing.
Yeah, now he's a freak. All right,
he's a specimen.
He is, and it's
dude. If they put you or I next to him, or we'll give a better example. Let's just say they put Miguel Iterate next to Ngannou, and some space aliens came down. They'd go, yeah, they're not even the same species.
Yeah.
Who's the short, stubby dude with glasses that talks funny with a weird nose? And then I would say, well, that's Miguel Iterate.
Poor Miguel. I thought he was talking about Ngannou.
No. Who's the dude with the hairy back and the bad tattoos? Oh, that's Miguel Iterate. Sorry.
Speaking of bad tattoos, what do we got this weekend? Oh, no, we're about a week away from the big UFC card, right?
Dustin Poirier. Dustin Diamond.
He's losing.
If you had to pick one person that is an underdog that you really count against, it's Poirier. He's got to take it into the late rounds, man. Those first 2 rounds are brutal with Khabib.
Miguel, I hate to throw you a curveball, but do you happen to know the odds on that fight?
Of course he does. He's Miguel Iterate, bro.
Yep, I can bring him up here. Just give me one quick second. I do think that fight right there is, about 10 days away. So
is it a curveball,
we can bring it up here
when it's the main event.
It's a knuckle curve. It's a knuckle curve.
I mean, he hit it out of the
park.
Yeah,
in Abu Dhabi, the thing about it being in Abu Dhabi is that always would affect the odds in my book. You know what I mean? I don't know in which way they would slant in this particular case, but yeah, I think that they would actually spread out and be more in favor of Khabib in my book. Although I haven't really been looking at this one too much here.
You know what drives me nuts?
Khabib is at minus 400, and Poirier is returning at plus 325.
Yeah, I mean, I like
4-1 favorite.
Yeah, it's I like Khabib in this. You know, I'm going to tell you something. Like right now, I'm looking at these rankings. I don't mean to like change lanes too quick, but I'm looking at the rankings. And Mike, let's play a guessing game real quick if you don't mind. Let's just go through the top. Let's go through the top 4. I want you to guess the top 4 in the UFC lightweight rankings. Number 1, you obviously know. Number 2.
Oh, it's got to be Poirier.
No, well, number 1 is Poirier.
Okay, number 1 is Poirier. Number 2, it's Tony Ferguson.
Who's number 3?
Who's number 3 after Tony Ferguson?
This makes me sick.
Probably Nate Diaz.
Nope.
Who?
Nate Diaz is not even on this list.
Well, they probably got him at 170. Okay, who's number 3?
Conor McGregor. He hasn't fought in...
Bro. All right, go ahead. They're just keeping him on there to keep him in who's side of the testing pool. All right, so who's after that?
After Conor McGregor?
Yeah.
Donald Cerrone.
I think Cerrone's got some holes right now. Like if I have to fight, take Conor off the map because obviously he's a big money guy. So let's just say I'm the average Joe and I'm trying to break that top 5. Mm-hmm. The guy I'm calling out Cerrone.
Yeah,
or you can fight Ferguson.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Right.
Top 5 all cardio. Top 5 all cardio. Ferguson's up there. Guida's on there.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't know. Does
Kobe Covington's their top 5 all cardio?
Yeah.
You know, the champion at 170. What's his name?
Kamaru
Usman. There you go. You better edit that, John, so we don't look stupid. Yeah, Usman. All right there. I mean, you got your top 5 guys probably in the history of the UFC in terms of cardio. Mm-hmm. Right there, all active right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've never seen anybody with that as much cardio as those guys have.
What do you think that contributes to? Better, smarter training? I mean, these guys weren't around 10 years ago.
Well, Clay Guida 10 years ago, outside of him, I'd say, because I know what's going on with Clay Guida. Clay Guida 10 years ago, on a date, got taken to a yoga class, and Clay Guida listened. And he went to that yoga class and went, oh my God, this is going to help me with MMA. Mm-hmm. Stuck with it and spoke about the virtues of yoga when everybody was trying to figure out jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he even plugged it in one of his victory speeches. So that guy is susceptible to training, and he's somebody that loves to push himself in practice. And I know about a dozen guys that have practiced with him that have said he's never the best in the room.
Yeah.
Even locally, when he's the only UFC vet in the gym,
they're
like, he's nowhere near the best guy in the room, but something happens when he gets inside that cage.
Well, I'm just saying, collectively. I mean, you got 5-6 people right now in the UFC who have incredible cardio. Okay.
Better than everybody else.
Right.
And if I had to pick the best cardio out of those 5, it's got to go Covington or
Ferguson.
Or Ferguson. And you know, if you want to talk argument's sake, anyone can do low power moves over and over and over and over again. You know, once they get in a favorable position. Mm-hmm. Very few can do what Tony Ferguson does, which is power moves. And they're not real power, but they're much more powerful than, let's say, Kobe Covington does. You know, he just kind of tap, 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 to where Ferguson's taps, I'm using air quotes there, are they full power? No, but they're about medium power, and they wear you down, and he's constantly pressuring you. I'd say about half his wins are against guys that are better than him.
He just grinds them out.
He breaks them.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
part of the game.
Part of the game.
And that's it.
Part of the game.
Miguel, you got any predictions for that fight?
That card's actually pretty good.
It's in Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah, no, it's in Abu Dhabi.
Right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Any predictions for that, Miguel?
I mean, I don't see much of a surprise going on here. I think, like I said, I think that the location and everything actually slants the odds further in favor of Nurmagonedov. At the end of the day, it's, a Muslim country that, believe it or not, in this particular case, the religion kind of plays into it because of all the negative, talk around the Conor McGregor and putting Nurmagomedov's religion at the forefront of stuff, insulting his father and things like that. I think I think that helps re-sign and bring Nurmagomedov back over the fold, and I think that'll carry over here where he'll be literally fighting kind of like with a home field advantage, even though he's not at home.
Okay, now, can I counter you with this?
Sure.
What I would do is I would look at where it's at, and I would look at the elevation, because Khabib has got cardio issues. And if it's let's just say a Colorado type elevation, do you know what I do, John?
What's that, Mike?
I go to betdsi.com.
No, or .eu.
Or .eu. And then I put in a promo code.
Fighters Corner.
Dude, how did you know that? It's crazy.
All one word.
And then you double your money that you put in. Like, let's just say you got a hot date on Saturday, okay? Because it's not this Saturday, because that's not the event. What you can do, the Saturday after, we'll say, for this example, and you needed, I don't know, like a couple fistfuls of Blue Chews because you were having some issues in that department.
I don't think BetDSI takes Blue Chews.
No, but what you could do, if it's the same elevation as Colorado, is throw $100 into your account, which they give you $200. Mm-hmm. And then when Poirier wins and you get, I don't know, over $400 back based on the odds, you could take so many Blue Chews that you'll look like a porcupine.
Oh, Mike.
It's true. It's true.
Miguel, what do you know about Blue Chews?
He's in Costa Rica, dude.
Yeah, he got that stuff.
Nah, he's getting the real stuff over the counter. So anyway, Miguel, outside of your erectile dysfunction issues, which we've discussed at length up until this point,
that's a good one.
We sincerely appreciate you coming on with us to discuss these things.
I almost had to cut it short because I got a hard on and I didn't want to waste it.
Wow, Miguel, as always, your dazzling personality has come through from beginning to end, and we really appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
We'll see you, Miguel.
Always a pleasure to be on the Fighters Corner, guys. Thank you.